These are the hottest seats in footy. The men who guide their team's fortunes more than any other across the league. Sometimes torturous, sometimes triumphant, but when they're with us on AFL360, always enlightening. All 18 coaches have committed to the program on Monday nights across the 2025 season. We don't take that for granted. It's privileged access and it allows the conversations around clubs' fortunes and around the league more broadly. So all 18, and there's a good swag of premiership coaches amongst them. The newly graduated Chris Fagan right at the front of that queue. So our coaches' nights on a Monday here on AFL360. Opening round is so based in the north, so that is where we head. Our first stop is the Gold Coast. Damien Hardwick. Damien, great to have you back on the program.
Thanks, guys. Evening, gents.
And one of the newbies, Dean Cox, who's now the senior coach of the Sydney Swans. Dean, terrific of you to join us this Monday night.
You heard, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Damien, what's it like out the window on the Gold Coast?
Look, it's not too bad at this stage, but I have been Googling sandbags just to make sure that we are covered in a little bit of a low-lying area in Burleigh Heads here. So there might be a bit of work on the day off, so to speak. But I think we'll be okay. We're just preparing as normal. We'll leave it up to the local authorities in the AFL to make decision in due course.
So what are you starting to hear from, first as a citizen, and we'll do the footy coach in a minute, what are you starting to hear in the community around preparedness Thursday night, Friday?
Well, I think up north a little bit in Queensland, it's probably destined to hit, I think they were saying. And you know, down here on Thursday, we're, I think, anywhere between 40 to 80 mils. Then Friday might even be a bit more than that. So it's going to be really interesting. The one thing I will say, the grounds do drain really well up here, but I suppose it's just going to be left to the local authorities and the AFL to make a call at some stage. You know, we're really keen to go ahead, especially with our home game up here. But, you know, as I think I heard Andrew Dillon say today, the AFL are very flexible and agile. So we'll find out what that means in due course, I think.
Coxie, it's always raining in Sydney, so you'd be pretty prepared for it anyway.
Yeah, it has been a wet summer, so yeah, expect some rain certainly throughout the week, and looks like it might clear up for Friday night, which is really exciting considering obviously the game at hand.
Dimmer, is there a sense of concern amongst the community? No one's making light of it down here at all. There's this great uncertainty around it. We sit here tonight not knowing whether the game's going to go ahead, but is there a community concern up there of major proportion?
Well, as I said, probably up in Brisbane more so, where they've obviously, some 3 or 4 years ago, obviously went through that catastrophic, flood that approach that area. So look, it is a relatively big cell, as we can see, so there's obviously going to be some concern, and the health and well-being of players is paramount, as is the supporters and fans. So we're really confident that the people in charge in the AFL and the local government will make the correct decisions for the safety of everyone.
Has anyone told you any stories? The Suns once played as Tropical Cyclone Nora was gathering. They played a game against North Melbourne. Has anyone told you any stories from that yet?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't heard that one. But look, hopefully it's not too bad. I know the winds on Thursday or Friday are meant to be about 100 and something kilometres an hour at some stage. So, yeah, hopefully we're kicking with the wind if we were playing that day.
Dean, on an injury front, so it has been a summer defined by injury, and then on the weekend a couple of nasty ones, or in the community series. Have you spoken to Errol Goulden post-surgery?
Yeah, I have. Obviously devastating for Errol and the footy club. I spoke to him, obviously, when we got back to the hotel, and we were really fortunate to have medical staff and obviously some surgeons up in Brisbane. He stayed up and had surgery on Sunday morning, so I spoke to him before surgery and then after surgery and again this morning. So, yeah, he's in as good a spirits as you possibly can be with what he's just undertaken. So hopefully everything goes well with that, and he can start his rehabilitation.
What is he being told around recovery at the moment?
Yeah, he'll stay up in Brisbane for a little period and make sure he'll meet the surgeon in about 5 weeks' time, and that'll determine the extent of the time out. Obviously, he won't be playing in the early part of the season. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, but, it's an opportunity that someone else will have to step into.
You've both been through it. I'll start with you, Coxie, as players and now coaches. I mean, I don't know if it was Dimmer that said it's a necessary... I think it might have been Brad Scott who described it as a necessary evil. How do you work out who plays and who doesn't? So Errol plays and Cops this unfortunate one, and you've as a new coach, you're driving home thinking, well, I've kept Isaac back, I've kept the rest of them back. I mean, how do you decide who plays and who doesn't?
Oh, yeah, for us, we just sort of spoke about, the pre-season that it had. Errol had a little bit of a hiccup throughout a period. So, and also for Errol, he wanted to play. I think that's what you've got to manage, is how the player feels, knowing that we do play 7 days later against Hawthorn. So, yeah, we took some precaution with players that had full pre-seasons and obviously some big workloads throughout the year that we expect. So, Errol wasn't one of them. Now I sort of wish he was, but, you can't control and live in hindsight.
Dimmer, you've also been through it. You had a period there the other night where they just kept going down. You might have wondered whether you could put a side together. I mean, how have you come out of that, and how's your injury list stacking up?
Yeah, look, not as well as we'd like. Obviously, Dave Swallow's a bit of a long-termer in 8 weeks. Max doubtful, Lockie Weller's doubtful. Who else have we got?
Mac Andrew?
Mac Andrew's doubtful, I think, at this stage as well. Charlie Ballard, we think, will play. And we think Touk Miller will be available too. So it's one of those things. It's like, all of a sudden we're Mac Andrews 30 seconds in is coming off the ground. You think, crikeys, you sort of got to put him in harm's way a little bit, but it can be a really deflating experience, I think, by the end of it. And obviously then you're shuffling deck chairs to try and make it work. But it is a challenging period, and whether it's through training or the preseason games, you're right on a knife's edge, and just your biggest factor of luck is your player availability come round 1. So we might be a little bit challenged early, but as Coxie said, it's a great opportunity for other players to stand up and fill the void until those boys are back. But we're confident the players will be able to put in a great performance for us.
Feels like there's 2 parts to the summer conversation. So maybe these match sim and the community games first. Damien, are they a necessary evil? Do you need to play opponents in the lead up to the season?
I think you do. I think, look, how many is probably the case. I think you'll always do what you need to do, like whether it's one full one, because we sort of played managed minutes last week, obviously, with some of our players, because as Dean was alluding to, some players play a high amount of game times throughout the year, so you sort of want to realise that we've got one of the longest seasons in the world, so we don't want to push them hard this early. But look, I think definitely 1. Look, other clubs will push for 2, and I could be talked into it, but I think the challenge for all of us is we've got the world's longest pre-season, we've also got the longest season, and something has to give. And one of the struggles for us is we come back with about we train 2.5, 3 weeks before Christmas, then we have 3 weeks off, then we come back, then we've got community camps, we've got 4-day breaks, we've got AFLPA camps, so everything doesn't flow. Whether or not we say, listen guys, pre-Christmas you guys have what you have, but Jan 1 we're back, and then we're just with the coaches for 71 days until our season starts, and then we can get flow into our pre-season, our games, and get on with it from there. So, look, there's a lot of people have a lot of opinions, me included, but what that looks like, I'm not exactly sure.
Are they listening to you at AFL House? How's the lines of communication between the coaching fraternity and the AFL?
Dean?
You can answer the experienced one.
one of you, Dimmer, you're the premiership coach.
Look, they're great. They'll listen to anything we say. Once again, we're all working together, and I think sometimes, even I get my head on with regard to that, but we all want what is very best for the games primarily, but also the health and well-being of players. Like, we had a really strong conversation with the AFL with regard to the sub-rule. I think the vast majority of coaches just wanted to go with 5 in the bench. We think the sub it's something that adds to the mental toll of the players. 1, you're wearing the sub vest, or 2, you're being subbed off. It adds to our workload, making phone calls, figuring out who that guy is. We haven't got that one across the line. We wish we would. But I think overall the AFL listened to all our grievances, but also general ideas about what the game is better. And, we're working on getting that relationship better all the time.
Dean, do you have a view on contact days, contact hours across the summer, having done it for the first time as the senior coach?
I probably agree with Dimmer. I think one thing you need to do is the first part, we need to prepare our players for a long season. So the duty of care, or the role that we play in that, is to make sure that they've done enough leading into the start of the season. And, players will get managed throughout that, but we need to make sure that players are ready. When they're ready to go, they can play for the whole season. So, it's been a little bit different being an assistant to a senior coach and having to actually make all those decisions. But you back the people that are around you as well and make a collective decision.
All right, Dean, you're about to coach the senior team for the first time on Friday night. Damien, what are your memories of that initiation?
Yeah, look, it was an exciting time, obviously, to coach your first game, and big game, obviously, round one. It always feels like it's worth 8 points as compared to 4. But I think the more important question from my point of view is, Horse used to barrel you, Coxie. I'm like, who is your guy? Who you got in the gun straight away?
I might get him back in and actually return the favour. I'm going to try and sort of keep my calm as much as I possibly can. Whether that comes to fruition, that's a different story.
Well, we'll keep you to that. We'll have about 8 cameras on you on Saturday night. So what is the greatest challenge for you, do you think, coming into this game? It's all very well to sit there when you're not in the ultimate seat. I know you've driven a lot of it over the journey, but what is the thing that you're most mindful of and looking forward to with some degree of sort of trepidation but anticipation?
I'm just really excited about Friday night. It's not necessarily about me. This is about the players starting their season and the new journey that we're on. And, I just want to make sure that the players over the pre-season and through the first couple of games have responded really well to some changes that we wanted to make. And, for me, it's about obviously trying to stay calm and, ask the other assistants for their opinion on a lot of things and then make the final decision. And, I want to be I've sort of said to our players over the whole pre-season, we want to be able to adapt and problem solve, and I see that role in myself as well. So I want to make sure they're as calm as possible, but ready to attack that footy as hard as they can.
Does mental scarring exist after the events of grand final day?
I think only time will tell. We tried to review that the first day back. One thing I'm big on is learning from every encounter that you do have, and the grand final was our last one for our first day of pre-season. So, we had to address it. The players have moved on, and to their credit, they've been phenomenal through this period. So, it's about trying to not make amends for it. It's just every other, there's 7, 8 other teams that are at the starting blocks on equal points. For us, it's about trying to put our best foot forward right from the outset.
You're going to put your stamp on the group, and you did that. We had a chat with you on radio, and you spoke about the time trial where you sealed them back into it again. I loved that. I loved hearing that. Am I led to believe that you've been fighting for Tom McCartan to play forward now for 2 years, and you had to wait till a horse went before you could get him down there?
No, not at all. I think, that's something, the conversations that we have, and when you do take over, is had the ability to be able to try and stimulate a group. And, for John, we'd spoken about that all the way through leading into pre-season. I was running anyway if he was away. So, and for Tommy, it's more about just the way he plays. He attacks the ball, he presents at all times. And will he get things wrong? Yeah, he will at times. But, he does a lot with effort. And, he certainly stands up when we need him to. And it's a learning experience, but he's also played there as a junior. So really excited to see how that goes.
So philosophically on that, so Dimmer, you got Mac Andrew as well. We had a chat about that a couple of weeks ago in terms of they can swing both ways. They're both capable at either ends of the ground. Do you go into a game thinking that I will swing them? Do you go into a game thinking I'll only swing them if there's a situation later, or only in an emergency? How are you going to deal with Mac and Tom maybe?
Yeah, it's a little bit break glass in the case of emergency at stages, but sometimes it'll be game dependent. And look, watching Tom actually behind the goals, he was outstanding on the weekend. You can tell he's actually had forward craft, but more importantly, probably learn off some of the good forwards he's made. His craft was first class. So, look, those players are really special. I think the players that can go both ends and become match winners, and we're very fortunate we've got one in Mac Andrew. So that'll be a move that we'll make at various stages, and sometimes it might be more prevalent than others, but other stages it'll just be a game dependent type situation.
Dean, we were just debating before you came on, is the day after the grand final, did you think somewhere in your mind, I wonder if my time might be coming now?
No, not at all. I think all the plans were, when the season finished, was for John to have a little bit of time away and come back in January. I was going to run the program through up until then, and I suppose that was the dialogue all the way through until I got a text from Tom Harley, and and then spoke to him on the phone about coming back into the footy club, and John was in here, and it changed from there. So we sat at the table I'm sitting at currently now and said, "Oh, you're coaching from now. Do you still want to do it?" So yeah, my world changed pretty quickly.
It would have, and it will continue to do so. Our coaches on duty tonight, Dean Cox and Damien Hardwick, as they look toward the events of opening round. We'll go a bit deeper on the prospects of the Suns and whether it's time to play finals at last this year. And then hand over to On the Couch. Jack Riewoldt is about to assume the coaching duties with the biggest opinions in the game. Brownie, Bucks and Jordan Lewis all on duty.
But man, I still think them cats are crazy. They were asking if you were around, how you was. From time to time, the system gets you.
Our suite of players for the 2025 season is unrivalled captains, Brownlow medalists, MVPs, premiership captains, the most decorated players in the game, those who have understood it and shaped the game. They'll be here to share their opinions, not only on their own fortunes, but the game more broadly. And then one of the great delights is going to be bringing a couple of the youngsters together. Day and Sheasel. I reckon they might be long-termers. They pick up their journey on Coaches Night. And out of Sydney, Nick Blakey's going to be part of that as well. So we are stacked for players.
Well served, and both players and coaches with Damien Hardwick and Dean Cox tonight. Great to have them on. Dimmer, generational coach, success at Richmond, 3-time premiership. It's going to have you held in that high regard forever and a day. The pressure of what you want to achieve up there at the Suns, the urgency of what they want to have achieved, and whether or not it's a matter of coaches making players or players making coaches. Where are you sitting right now with it all?
Oh, I think we've got a really capable group that's on the verge of greatness, in my opinion. And I've sort of learned from a great variety of leaders that aspirational leadership is a place to be. So, look, I'll always challenge this group to be the very best version of themselves, and I think they're capable of doing some wonderful things. We've got a group that I think is, our core has been together for a long period of time, and we're about ready to take that next step. Now, I'll always firmly say that finals are the benchmark for us, and whatever comes after that, or making the finals, is a benchmark, and whatever comes from that will be. And, people always try and tear you down, but if you're not in to make finals, why are you playing? So that's our reality, that's where we're at, and that's our understanding. We've got to make sure we deliver on that. Our fans haven't experienced it, but, we're asking them to jump on board. And, we speak about being fearless in 2025. It's time for us to show it, so we're ready to go.
And will the first indication we get is when you're playing away from home and trying to rectify this away from home record?
Yeah, it's always the first one, isn't it? We were probably disappointing in the vast majority of games last year. And look, in world sports, it's a challenge. We had games that were in winning positions but just couldn't quite play our moments well enough. So we did a fair bit of work on that over the course of the summer with both our coaching and playing group, but more importantly our leadership group, because they're an extension of our coaches, and we think we're a reasonable place for that to progress this year.
So that's bold and forthright. Dean, in your first year as coach, you're with the team who was the best for most of last season. Are you verbalising aspiration in what you'd like to achieve this year?
Well, I certainly understand the magnitude of the role and the position that we were in. And, from my point of view, we owe it to all our members, supporters, stakeholders, board, staff, to be able to contend every year. I'm fortunate that I've been privileged to learn off one of the best coaches about how to deal and start seasons and the expectation that comes with that. And from my point of view as well, as a player, as a coach at West Coast and then here as well, it's, I want to make sure that we put our teams in the best possible shape so they can contend every year.
You'll have Sydney Swans fans, Gold Coast Suns fans watching. I know you haven't picked teams and you understand you got to hold fire a bit, but can you give us an indication of a name or two that's bobbed up? I mean, Dean, Angus Sheldrick's one that I remember Paddy McCartan saying to me, this kid, he is as good as anyone we've got on our list yet. We haven't seen that. We've seen glimpses. The opportunity presents for him now. Have you got a name or two?
Yeah, well, Angus is a perfect example. He's been injured for a couple of years. He's had syndesmosis, ankle problems the past 2 seasons. So, he's had a really good pre-season. He'll get his opportunity at some stage throughout the year. And, I've just been really open with these guys to just tell them that, they'll play if they're in good form. And, he had a really good challenging game on the weekend against, when you talk of Rowell and Anderson and the like of those midfielders. He's one. Tommy Hanley's another one that's been playing some really good footy as a small forward, and so is Corey Warner. So one thing I want to do is I want to, play some kids and get some youth into the team as well.
Dimmer, got a name or two, or are they all injured?
No, there's a few of them still playing. But, look, obviously Leo Lombard was a guy we had, we were incredibly excited about, but unfortunately hurt his shoulder. So he'll miss the first part of the year. But, there's a young academy boy that has played the last couple of games in Lockie Goulburn, strong, fast, combative sort of player that we really like. But you sort of look at the guys that we injected last year, Jake Rogers, Jed Walter, Ethan Reid, Will Graham. Those guys are going to be really prevalent this year, and they'll progress their careers quite nicely, I think, moving forward. So we're really excited about to see what those guys can deliver in year 2.
Dean, how important is opening round in the Northern States?
Oh, it's huge for the market. I think being in Sydney now for 7 or 8 years, to see the growth and the development of the game. It's profound, the work that both obviously Sydney and GWS and Gold Coast and Brisbane are doing to actually bring people to play this great game. I think it is a national game. We need to make sure that this stays where it is, because it's really important for these markets.
Damien, the Wiggles are the entertainment. Have you played a role in picking the entertainment for Saturday?
Well, I'll give you the tip. I went through a lot of a Wiggles period like most parents, and I still reckon I know the words to Wake Up Jeff, I reckon, if you actually asked me to sing it, to be fair. But look, it's an exciting thing. Look, we're trying to make it a bit of a party atmosphere at our People's First Stadium. So we're looking forward to welcoming them.
Great to have you both with us. Thanks a lot, Dean. Good luck for the first experience as senior coach.
Thanks very much for having me, guys.
And Damien, hopefully we see a sellout on the Gold Coast. Stay safe.
Always a pleasure, guys. See you later.
Good on you. Damien Hardwick and Dean Cox with us on Coaches Night. Players Night tomorrow night. Patrick Dangerfield will be here. Lockie Neal, so he's on the ground in Brisbane. I wonder what we'll know by tomorrow night. And Jeremy Howe, who sat with us after the end grand final week. So we'll pick up our conversations with the players where we left off.